Kenyans continue heaping praises on security officers for a job well done at the 14 Riverside Drive attack. Tonight, we celebrate another group of people all together who are also the first responders at the scene. Anthony Ohome is live with me in studio tonight. He is the chairman of the National Gun Owners Association. Thank you for joining us on KTN Prime tonight. And like I mentioned, you are a civilian licensed gun holder, but you're also among the first responders at the 14 Riverside Drive attack. Walk us through what happened from when the attack began and what prompted you then to be a first responder.
Thank you, Rachel. As a group of members who are licensed to own firearms, we have a group where we communicate emergency scenarios. And this was one such day. There was a message sent by one of the members saying he had heard loud blasts, and another one said, who lives nearby, said he had heard sporadic fire. And, you know, by and large, a few more communicated, and it was clear that this could be a terrorist attack. And a few of us chose to go there, in as much as we were in the vicinity of the place. And by the time I got there, I found a few other civilian licensed firearm owners. There were members of the flying squad, there were members from the AP, there were members from GSU. And I was with one of our members, Inayat Kasam, who is an advanced tactical instructor and very well versed in such things. He was also there during the Westgate attack. And in a sense, he took control over the whole situation, you know, telling us what to do, how to move from building to building. We went evacuating people, getting people to safety, those who were not injured, but those who were injured, getting them to medical help. Yes.
Right. The truth is, a lot of people are alive today because of the first responders and because of heroes like you, civilian gun holders. But what procedure does one go through to be part of rescue operations such as this, especially to avoid confusion with the actual security teams?
Thank you, Michelle. There's an elaborate first responder training program, and there are a few things that a person who fits to be a first responder needs to go through.
Right.
Of course, activity or whatever kind of activity that you undertake once you're at the scene, one is to ensure that you're safe, most importantly, and once you're safe, then you can make others safe. But by and large, not everyone may have undertaken such a course.
Right.
Not to say that you cannot help. It's the same thing like if you're walking by the road or you're driving and you find a motor vehicle accident. It's the same thing. People stop and help for the very reason that, you know, life, sanctity of life prevails. So it's the same reason, you know, if you find one such person who is well-versed, then follow their instruction. They will be able to help you, to tell you what to do.
Right.
Even paramedics from, you know, places like Red Cross, they are very well-versed with such things. So they'll be able to assist people who may not know the procedures to actually just follow and be of
Absolutely.
help.
And we saw this with the Westgate attack of 2013 as well. What would you say is the role of civilian licensed gun holders in the country?
I would say any person who is licensed to have a firearm has a huge responsibility on their shoulders. Right. It's not a tool to be used at will. It's not a tool to settle bar brawls. It's not a tool to settle domestic disputes. It's not a tool, you know, to just be used as they feel like. There's a law, there's a Firearms Act, which determines how a firearm may be used. And there are justifiable justifiable circumstances under which a firearm should be used. And as an association, as the National Gun Owners Association, that's what we emphasize on. Responsible gun ownership.
And the Firearms Act that you bring up, I'm sorry to interrupt you, allows civilians to only own some types of guns. Now, we saw this at the 14 Riverside Drive, a situation that was cleared up, but we saw politician Steve Mbogo there, who came out as a first responder as well. Among those, he later cleared up that he was a licensed gun holder. But there's a large conversation on social media that was not a legal gun for a civilian. What types of guns should civilians own?
Okay, I would say that civilians are allowed to own semi-automatic weapons, but not in every caliber. Right. There are specific calibers, and the Firearms Act talks about prohibited weapons. So there are weapons which civilians are not allowed to use, and the calibers are well mentioned in the Firearms Act. But civilians are not allowed to use or own automatic weapons.
Right.
The minister can give exceptions, and he has given such exceptions to people, for example, the National Police Reserve, who are in areas prone to cattle rustling. So they're able to have AK-47s or G3 rifles, but it's for a specific purpose. They serve under the government. It is not their weapon.
Right.
So I don't want to comment about what politician Steve Mbogo had, but from the photo I could not tell what kind of weapon he was wielding, but I'm sure the law, is clear to everyone that there are specific weapons which civilians cannot own.
Right, right.
Yes.
Now, owning a gun in Kenya has been seen initially to be the preserve of the rich and the wealthy political class. But is it really? What is the process of owning a gun in Kenya, very briefly?
The process is quite elaborate. The applicant has to fill in a form and give a cover letter stating the reasons for which they want the firearm. And there are certain mandatory documents that must accompany that application, such as the police clearance certificate, a psychiatric evaluation form, which has to be obtained from a psychiatrist. Things like your PIN, your ID, and all these documents, copies of your bank statements. Once all those are together, you take your application to the OCS, and the applicant will be called before the Sub-County District and Security and Intelligence Committee, and they will vet him and ask him questions like, why do you feel you need to own a gun? So you have to justify the reason. And from the Sub-County Security and Intelligence Committee, it goes to the County Security and Intelligence Committee, then it goes to the Firearms Licensing Board. That process could take anything between 8 months and 2 years.
Right.
So it's not just a walk in and walk out with a gun.
All right.
And by the time, the approval has been made, and sometimes it could take that long and you get a rejection. It could be rejected. So it's quite elaborate.
All right. That's quite an elaborate process there. Thank you. Anthony Wahome is the chair of the National Gun Owners Association, speaking to us in studio tonight. Now we'll be moving on.